Hey, this is Dan. This is Pilates All Levels here at Studio Blue. Only props that are that you can possibly use is a mini band or a regular band. I don't have one in my hands right now, but you can use a band later for side series, or a long band you can wrap it around your thighs. If anything doesn't feel good in your body, don't push through any kind of bad pain, especially neck, joints, lower back, knees, anything like that. All that said, we're actually going to start standing today. So come on up. And if you generally have a little bit of if you generally need help with your balance, try to be on a surface that's not soft and try to be barefoot. It'll just give you a little bit more feedback into your body. If your balance is generally okay, don't worry about it. Feet fairly hip distance, fairly parallel, and just kind of take a couple shoulder circles. I don't know what was in the universe for the air last week, but I could not talk. So hopefully I'll be able to cue better this week. It was not working last week. So just take some big circles and then reverse them. So just big shoulder blades together, apart, up, down. Yeah, and just find a place where your shoulders and your shoulder blades feel kind of buoyant. You're not forcing them down or up. Nod your chin and start to roll down slowly, bending the knees a bit as you go. And just checking in with how the roll down feels. Again, heavy head, maybe shake the head a little bit left and right, up and down. Bend the knees a little bit more, root through your feet, roll yourself up slowly. Allow your head to come up last. We'll do that one more time, dropping the chin. And just imagine you're peeling off a wall. So again, just one piece at a time. Bend the knees a bit. Yeah, let things get heavy at the bottom. Take a breath. Root through the feet, roll yourself up. Good. All right, we're gonna make our way down into our back. Bands close by, you don't need them yet, but just have them close by. And just kind of file that roll down away somewhere in the back of your mind. We'll come back to it towards the end of the hour and see how it feels after a little bit of movement. So if you take your peace fingers, so your pointer finger and your middle finger, find your hip bones, take your thumbs to the base of your ribs, and then take an inhale through your nose. Exhale, imprint your lower back and feel your ribs, your lowest ribs and your hip bones coming towards one another slightly. Feel your belly drawing in and your lower back lengthening. And then as you inhale, release the pelvis towards neutral so the tail becomes heavy and there's a little bit of space under the lower back. And just keep moving like this. Exhaling, pelvis tilts slightly, ribs draw down slightly, hips are moving towards the ribs. And then as you inhale, you're going to feel the hip bones moving a little bit away. So just starting like this, and just make sure knees are bent, feet are flat. Yeah. And this is going to be the start to kind of waking up the lower abdominals and the pelvic floor. I'm going to give you a lot of different ways to progress this, right? You can always peel it back, or you can always decide to up level throughout the hour. And then find your imprint. So feel that length to the lower back, feel the ribs dropping a little bit, hips coming towards ribs, and just hold and breathe here a couple of breaths, keeping your imprint. Try to relax through the back of the hips into the glutes. And with every exhale, imagine that if you were going to stop the flow of urine, if you were going to the bathroom, feel those deep pelvic floor muscles draw up as you exhale. And then as you inhale, breathe wide and let them relax a little. And just one more like that. Exhale, pelvic floor lifts, deep low abs lift. And inhale. Relax the pelvis to neutral. Same thing from neutral. Pelvis, take a breath in. Exhale, pelvic floor, lower waistline draws in, but the back line doesn't change. You're just supporting this neutral pelvis. Inhale, breathe wide. Back of the ribs, side of the ribs. Big exhale through the mouth. Just two more like this. And let your arms relax by your side. You exhale, curl the tailbone, roll the hips up to a bridge, one vertebra at a time. So pelvis starts the motion. About halfway up, start to feel the back of the glutes connecting, knees stretching forward. Without moving your feet, feel your heels pulling gently towards your shoulders. On your next breath out, just slowly, softly start to roll it down. One bone, one vertebra at a time. All the way through your imprint back to neutral. And again, curl and roll, one vertebra at a time. Now, start to notice where the weight is on your feet. So keep a little bit of weight on those first balls of the feet, the second balls of the feet. That'll help keep the knees from splaying open and will help connect you to your inner thighs. Couple more, your own time. Just getting the back moving, starting to wake up the front of the hips, starting to activate the back of the glutes. The next time that you lift, pause and just check in that your shoulders, hips, and knees are all in alignment. And there's this sense of dropping down through the front of the ribs while keeping that lift through the back of your hips. On your next breath out, take the fingertips to the sky. And then on your next breath, roll down, arms reach overhead. As the arms reach back, rolling through upper spine, middle spine, lower spine. Pelvis to neutral, hands clasped together behind the head, elbows into your peripheral vision. Pelvis neutral for now. Nod the chin, lift the head and the chest, and pause. So your eyes are somewhere over the tops of your knees. Belly's drawing in, but without the back overly flattening. Then see if you can take your elbows and lift them up just a little bit higher. On your next breath in, lower the chest and the head. Nod the chin, exhale, curl up. And then inhale, just slowly articulate back down. So kind of like that articulating bridge we were just doing, but now the focus is more on the abdominals. The obliques as well, right? Lower abs, transversus, setting the pelvis and the lower back in place, right? Rectus, obliques, helping to actually move you. We're gonna do a bunch of different stuff for your lower abs today. So again, just being mindful and knowing you can always come back to this will kind of be our foundation or our base. Yep. Good. The next time that you lift up, hold on that lift up. As you inhale, reach the arms forward. Palms are facing down, parallel to the ground. On your next breath out, curl up just a little higher, folding into your breastbone. And on your next exhale, slowly sweep the hands around to the back of the head. Stay lifted. Pelvis still neutral. Feet slightly towards one another, and then right leg tabletop and hold. So maintaining this height as you exhale, tap the right heel towards the ground. We're just going to stay on this side. Inhale, lift up. And then exhale, tap down. And maybe start to play around tapping a little further away from your body. And see if you can start to feel that engagement of your pelvic floor in those deep lower abdominals. And there'll be other ways to make this more advanced. But for now, just keeping left leg on the ground. Yeah, and just playing around with how far away or close can that heel tap towards the ground, right? And of course, it's not just your lower abs, but all the abs are going to be working on this, right? Try to keep the chest lifting. Imagine those elbows are lifting a little higher to the ground. Yeah, so you're up off your shoulder blades. Head's pretty relaxed into the hands. And anytime we're doing ab work, a lot of it revolves around your breath, right? Last one. And then set that foot down, lower the head, lower the chest. Take a breath in, both feet on the ground. Exhale, curl the chest up, reach the arms forward at the top. Take an inhale. Exhale, maybe curl up just a little higher. On your next breath out, hands together behind the head. And then staying here, pelvis still neutral on this one. Left leg floats up tabletop. Check in that the weight is still even across the hips. And then as you exhale, left heel taps towards the floor. Inhale up. Exhale to tap. Maybe playing around with reaching a little further away from the body. And the nice thing about this is you can train your abdominals in a neutral place because our right foot's still on the ground. It's pretty low impact. Elbows still lifting, chin still dropping a little bit. Big exhales as you breathe out. And arms can always reach forward as well. right? Especially if your upper back's feeling a little tight or you can't just quite make it up off those shoulders, or hands stay behind the head. Last two. Last one. And then set the left foot down, lower the chest, lower the head. Imprint the lower spine, float one leg at a time up tabletop. Grab the back of the thighs with your hands, lift your head and chest. So tail's heavy, lower back is lengthened. Take an inhale. Exhale, hands together behind the head. Stay lifted. On your next breath out, we'll alternate right heel taps towards the ground. Inhale up. Left heel taps towards the ground. Again, arms can always be forward on this. You can always start to play around with reaching further away from your body. Head can always be on the ground. So lots of different ways to play around with this, right? Just make sure wherever your heel is tapping, there isn't really any change to your pelvis, your lower spine, right? Chest is still lifting. And again, all the abs are working from the deep layers to the not so deep layers. So lower back's going to be a little bit imprinted, and then the shoulder blades are going to be off the ground. Yep. So imagine you could literally take your elbows and reach them up to the sky. Do you feel that? Yeah. And you just want to make sure, right, as you're tapping down, if you tap so far away from you that your back starts to arc up, you've tapped too far. Yeah. Take one more to your left, and then hug the knees in and rest. Everybody feeling that? Sweet. Nice. Cool. Fairly simple, right? We don't have to do 100 of them. It felt like it though, yeah. Just take a little roll from side to side. All right, grab the back of your thighs, nod your chin, curl, roll yourself up to seated for a moment. And then legs are going to be fairly bent, feet flexed. Rudd, for you at home, this can be any kind of ab work on your back. You can go back into toe taps. Otherwise, hands to the back of the thighs, sit tall, just as tall as you can, shoulders easy. Curl the tailbone, rock back into your pelvis. So roll back, lower back starts to imprint, low abs are in. Now the curve to your upper spine won't change. As you exhale, can you bring your right hand to the back of your head? So you're gonna feel, right, deep abs, also your obliques, kind of the muscles right around your ribs. Inhale back to where you started. Exhale, left hand behind the head. Inhale back to where you started. Now, if you want to advance, just start with your arms forward, right? You don't have the support of your legs. And same thing, you're just alternating one hand behind the head and forward, one hand behind the head and forward. And as that hand goes back, if you think of ever so gently pressing your head into your hand and dropping your chin, right? So you're giving your neck a little bit of length. Do you feel your abs turn on more? Yeah. So obliques, right? Six-pack abs, deep abs, all of it. So just a couple more. If you find that your lower back's starting to tense, just curl up a little higher or keep one hand behind your thigh for support. And to your left, both arms go forward. Exhale, roll down slowly. You can always walk your hands down your thighs to help, right? So little eccentric abs, arms reach overhead. Take an inhale, lift your arms, your head and your chest. Exhale, roll back up. Yeah, restack, sit tall. We'll just do one more like this. Inhaling, legs can be bent or straight. We curl and roll back. I always think bent is a little bit harder, but straight, definitely okay, right? Just as slow as you can, as smooth as you can. Arms eventually reach overhead. And again, arms, head, chest. Exhale, curl. Yes, nice. Stretch forward and then restack. All right, so we'll cross the legs. So we're gonna come into a modified low forearm plank. This is a really nice way to start to wake up the lower abs as well as really just every part of your body. So my knees are definitely on the ground. You can pad up your knees at home if you're on a yoga mat on a harder surface. Hands together, elbows under shoulders. You want to make sure you're not here, kind of butt sticking out, back arched, but curl under, find some length in your lower back, kind of like you were doing an imprint on the ground if you're lying on the back. Picture where your pubic bone is and lift it up a little bit towards your belly button. Yep, press down through your forearms and imagine you could puff up your middle lower back, right? You might even feel a little bit of glute on in the background here to help maintain that little bit of a curl. And just hold, and now picture where your elbows are and where your knees are and try to pull those 2 points together, right? I'm not gonna see much happen, but you should feel kind of this deep internal shake start to kick in. Yep. Keep that sense of kind of puffing up through the middle back. Yes, nice, Danny, good. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, child's pose on 1. Did you feel that? Nice, because you're connected. That's why it's hard. And we just did a lot of abs, but yeah. So we'll do that again, right? And this one, right, it's not easy, right? It's not, we're saying modified, but it's really not. It's not an easy one. So we're gonna do that one again. So it's super sneaky, super, super sneaky. All right, so forearms are down, right? Check into that posture and just picture those low floating ribs, right? They're lifting as well. Pubic bones lifting, right? Once you're in that position, try to magnetically pull, right? Without rounding your upper back, but try to pull your elbows and knees a little together. You probably can't see it, but I start to get kind of this deep shake. So you might start to feel that as well. Keep holding that, keep breathing. Yep. And keep going. Puff up through here just a little. Yes, that's it. That's the spot. Nice. Yes, keep that. Go on. Oh, well, thank you. You're like, teacher gets tortured too. Yep. And then keep puffing up through those lower ribs for me, Elizabeth. Yes. Yep. Yep. Last 5. Last 4. Last 3. 2. Rest. Child's pose. Nice job. Good. All right. So just for 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds, we're going to take it into a full forearm plank, but we're going to start from that same place. I want you to see if you can feel that same sensation just with a longer lever, right? So legs will just be a little bit longer. So you start, right, the same position. Shoulders are down, forearms are pushing down, abs are in, right? A little bit of glute in the background, toes tucked, and then without changing the position of your back or pelvis, can you lift into your forearm plank? There it is for 10. Keep breathing. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Good. 2. Rest. Nice job. Feet together, knees open, push back. Child's pose. Lovely. Those are hard, I know. Good job. All right. So next up, coming up to hands and knees. So fingers spread, knees under hips, hands under shoulders. Hands can always move forward off of the squishy mat if you want more wrist support. Knees narrow slightly, so a little bit narrower than hip distance. And then slide the right leg out and up. Hold. Keep that sense of your lower abs and lower ribs lifting, like you could still puff up that lower middle back. And it doesn't mean you're not going to have maybe a little bit of a curve to the lower back, but keep that sense of lift. As you inhale, bend the back knee in. Exhale, reach out and up. Now, on the hands, your lower back is generally less stable than if we were on our forearms. So you need to think about a lot more abdominals, obliques, and stability through your lower back pelvis area. All right, so starting to wake up the back of the glutes just a little bit, opening up through the front of the hips. Yeah, making sure you're not sinking into the right hip, but there's still this sense of lift. You're not swaying to the left, everything's stacked. One more like this. Reach out, hold. Softening the shoulders. See if you can take your left hand to your chest to balance. Maybe even to your lower ribs or ab line, just to feel like, okay, this is still lifting. My shoulders are easy. Is there work under the armpit? Yeah, definitely. In the shoulders and the arms and the waistline. Yep. Back legs lifting, back foot's pointed. Breathing. Maybe close the eyes if you want to challenge your balance. And then lower everything down and we'll switch. Yeah, maybe shake out the right hand a little bit if you need to. Set the stomach first. Left leg reaches back and up. The hip opens, leg comes up, maybe hip height a little higher. Down and in. Exhale back and up. Down and in. Yep. Back and up. And just feel like you have this corset around your whole waistline. So as your leg is moving, right, the waistline really isn't. The back line isn't changing too much. Yep. Shoulder blades are pretty wide. There's a sense of really pressing into the ground and kind of puffing up through your back line. Exactly. Yep. Lower rib line in. Last two. On the last one, reach back, hold, set shoulders, set stomach, right hand to chest. Or again, maybe the lower ribs or belly. Close the eyes if you'd like to challenge your balance. Just breathe. The entire waistline is working, core line, trunk line. And let everything lower, push back, child's pose. Nicely done. Arms reach out in front, take a full breath. In through nose, out through mouth. Good. And then make your way back onto your forearms. So knees will come back, last round of this. So hands together, elbows under shoulders. There's this sense of the heart pulling a little forward and a sense of the tail dropping a little bit back, right? So the spine's just nice and long. Now the thighs are going to touch on this one. So feet and thighs together. My left leg is heavy. My arms are heavy. My right toes stay on the ground. Can you just extend the right knee? Nothing else in the back changes. Right? Bend that knee down to the ground. So now I have weight in my right leg. Left knee extends, my left foot stays on the ground. Can you keep that sense of your lower abs drawing in? Bend the knee. So as the knee lifts, as the leg extends, I'm opening my hip rather than arcing my back. A little bit of glute work as well. One more to the left. Are we feeling this? Okay. So if you want to add on the right leg, and you might not, stay here. And all you're going to do is point the back foot. So make sure your knee feels comfortable in this position. Nothing else has changed. Foot drops down, knee bends, hold, back line sets, knee lifts, and then all I do is just point the foot. The leg doesn't lift any higher. Keep pushing into those arms. Lower, try one more on each side. Again, all options. Waistline in, shoulders wide. Last one to the left. Knee lifts, waistline in, foot points. Relax down, child's pose. Whew, those are hard. Nice job. Yeah, totally. Where you're supposed to be moving from, right? Totally. So what some people in class are talking about, that's a kind of a peel back to this one, right? So kind of this classic Pilates, just longer levered leg lift, but you can really kind of pow right into the abs a little bit more if you're on your forearms. So it's a lot harder. So if you have a band, grab it. You do not have to use it. It's an option, right? So if your glutes are already a little sore today, no worries. If you're using one of these little ones, keep it wide as it goes up over your knees. If you're using a long band, thighs together, tie it pretty tight. It always loosens up once you come onto your side. Okay, so come onto a side, any side you want. As long as you can see me, feet together in line with your hips. You can have your arm bent. You can have your arm straight. And then top hand to the top hip. Let this hip hike up a little and then drop it down slightly. So there's this sense of lift under your lower ribs, waistline's in, top knee lifts, pause. So take your top foot, your heels are gonna stay together, right? Flex the top foot, turn the toes to the sky and push your top heel down as you push up into the tension of the band. And then slowly lower to the edge of the resistance And then exhale, lift. So as my knee goes up, my foot is pushing down. Slowly lower. And again, yeah. So this should fire up through, right, glute max. So big, big, big glute muscle, big external rotator. And there's this pivot that happens in the joint, right? Kind of the sink and roll. Again, if your resistance is so heavy that you can't lift your leg at all, right? The resistance is too heavy then. Or if your legs are so sore that after like 2 of these, you're like, I am spent, then just ditch the band, right? So yeah. And then first question, does everyone feel this? Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So now all that ab work that we did, that's just setting your posture, right? So not overly rounded, you're not overly arched, somewhere in the middle. And if your posture is in the best possible position it can be, it's going to be more efficient in working these muscles. Just have a better chance of getting in and working these glutes more efficiently. Now, as much as you can, try to relax your bottom foot. And you're going to feel your bottom glutes turn on a little bit to stabilize. That's fine. Last one. Good. Now, lower down about halfway so your knee is hip height. Lift your foot. So thigh, knee, shin, foot, everything's parallel to the ground. Keep your top knee bent. Push your leg a little bit backwards in space so the front of your hip starts to open. Keep your rib line in the front, right? Make sure that you don't start to splay out through the ribs. Your abs are still in. Now, as you exhale, rotate your foot to the sky. So essentially rotate your thigh in, back to center without losing your resistance. And again, rotate, right? Foot to the sky, and then back to where you started. So this is still working your glutes. It's just working the internal rotator function of your glutes. Yes. And this should feel like some really deep, weird part of the side of your hip working. It generally burns out pretty quick. A lot of times just because we don't do a lot of this internal rotation training necessarily. Yeah. Yep. It's really good, especially if your external rotators tend to be tight. This is a nice way to kind of balance them out. Last one. Good. And then let everything come down. Just kind of pat out the side of the hip and those glutes. Lovely. All right. Top leg goes long. And this is still going to be working into that kind of outer glute area. So top leg's going to lift up about hip height, foot softly pointed. And then again, just check waistline is in, hips are stacked. I'm going to drop this leg down slightly, swing it slightly forward, up, around, and back. And just check on this circle that if you touch your top hip, it's not really moving around, it's not hiking up. And you really want to avoid on the lift up that there's not a hike in the hip, but you're getting these outer hip muscles to fire. And lower back stays nice and long. Yeah, and this will start to get into the back of the hamstrings a little bit as well, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of those abductors, right? Now, if you wanted a little bit more challenge, maybe take just your top fingertips to the ground, or maybe your top arm goes to the sky, so you don't have as much support from that arm, so your core muscles have to help balance you a little bit more. Next time you're at center, we'll reverse, down, back, up, around, and forward. Leg fairly parallel, right? Just fairly parallel. Yep. Again, rib line still in. Shoulders nice and easy. Last 3, 2, last 1. And then bring it back to center, bend the knees. And again, just kind of pat out, rub out, massage out that outer hip. We will stretch these towards the end. All right. And then come all the way up to seated and switch sides. So we'll move on to like a different side series after this. So this is kind of the classic, and then we'll take it into a not so classic. So just make sure you are on your opposite side. Knees together, feet in line with the back of the sit bones, hips stacked. Right, so top hip, hike it up a little bit, just so you know where we don't want to be. Drop it down. Ribs are soft, top knee lifts up, hold, top heel pushes down, toes apart. And just hold that. If you reach around and touch the back of the glutes, make sure you feel some tone there. Slowly lower, right? There's that eccentric control. Exhale, lift. There's your concentric. Pause. There's your isometric. Hold. Slowly lower, right? Set the stomach, lift. There's some people in class, their legs are pretty sore today. Mine are as well. This feels like their torture today. Good. I guess it does every day though. So how does this side feel compared to the other, right? There's things to notice, just to check in with. Yeah. Good. Couple more. Good. So on this last one, stay lifted. Top knee drops down to about hip height, foot lifts with it. So your thigh, knee, foot, everything's parallel to the ground. Keep the knee bent, push back a bit. So now the front of the hip is opened. Yeah, just a little bit more. Exhale, rotate your foot to the sky. There's your internal rotation. Make sure the hip hasn't hiked. Back to center. Don't lose your tension. Exhale, rotate. Foot to the sky. Internal rotation. Make sure you're not using a hip hike or right a side leg lift, right? Make sure you are getting that rotation. Inhale back. Exhale to lift and rotate. Yep. Ooh, yeah. Last 3. 2, keep pushing back a little bit into those bands. Last 1. Back to center. Just rub that out a little bit. And then top leg long, foot pointed, leg in line with the body, lift it up hip height and pause. So we're going to start to sweep forward, up, back, and down. And waistline in, maybe top arm in front, maybe top arm to the sky to challenge your balance. So now your core muscles, right, the side, the front, the back, have to work to kind of keep you here. You might even feel those lower, right, your other side of the hip, the one you're lying on, those deep hip muscles might be working a little bit too to help stabilize you. All normal. Yeah. Again, check hips not hiking. Reverse those circles. Good. 5 from here. 4, 3, 2. Yep. Keep breathing. Last 1. And rest. Nicely done. Just pat that out a little bit. All right. And then we keep the band. We're going to come up onto the forearms. Again, you have the option to ditch it whenever you want. So knees are about under the hips, elbows under shoulders, hands separated, palms down or up. Hug the inner elbows in, relax your head down a little bit, roll your shoulders out of your ears. Left leg is going to reach back and up, pause. Keep the lower waistline in. So all those planks we did in the beginning, think of that kind of core engagement through here. All right, so back leg is definitely on, back glutes are on. Bend that leg down and in. So very similar to what we did on our hands before. Exhale, reach back and up, except now we have resistance. Down and in, and you might notice both sides of your glutes are working. Up and back. All right, down and in. Yep, relax the jaw, relax the head a little. And keep your standing leg, right? Keep that right leg still rooting down and keep this sense of kind of puffing up through your middle back, right? Make sure you don't start to sink kind of like a valley shape into that low back. Keep some length there. Yep. And then shifting just to the little bit to the left, Meg. There you go. Find those right outer glutes. Nice. Still relaxing the jaw, relaxing the head. Hello, glutes. Last one, reach back, hold, just hold, flex your back foot, point your back foot, stay in the tension, flex, point, flex, point, keeping the tension, flex, point, shoulders are down. Last one, flex, point, bend in. All right, child's pose or cat stretch, just for a little bit of a release. Cat stretch might feel nice. All right, if you're in cat, open into cow, shoulders down, extending the spine. All right, find your neutral, make your way back onto the forearms, elbows under shoulders. Hands can be, again, apart on this one. Push down through the forearms, hug inner elbows in, left leg roots down, right leg reaches back and up. Hold. Right, down and in slowly. Exhale, back and up. Right, down and in. Yep, and back and up. Yeah, nice. Right, and just avoid your hips swaying too much to the left. Yeah. So feel those outer left glutes working to kind of to not let you sway. But yeah, it's like they're almost kind of putting on the brakes, right? They're almost like creating a wall. Ditch it. Yeah, I know you still feel your glutes. Yeah, couple more like this. Yeah. So now the next time you reach back, hold your leg up into that tension, right? Point your foot, flex your foot. So, right, just rolling through heel arch ball toe, toe arch ball heel without losing the glute tone or the resistance in the band, right? Keep the core in and just keep rolling through, flexing and pointing. Last two. Yep. Last one. And then bend in. All right, child's pose or cat stretch. We just have one more thing with the band left. Okay. Again, if we're using the band, all of it can be done without. So we're on our forearms. Just note this can be done on your hands as well to offload the shoulders. Hands together on this one, elbows under shoulders, knees hip distance. So I'm in a little bit of tension in my band. They're about under my hips. My toes are tucked. Drop the chin to the chest, push into the forearms, puff up through your middle back and your upper back, and just hover, maybe just hover just a couple inches, knees over the ground. So you're going to start to feel your thigh muscles, your glute muscles, your upper back, your shoulders, right? Keep a sense of pushing back into the hips rather than letting your weight completely tip forward. Lower the knees down. Then set shoulders out of ears, hug inner elbows in, push forearms down, lift the core, then lift your legs, even weight through the toes. Again, hands or knees is fine on this. And lower. One more like this. You have options to add on. So we can keep doing what we're doing or lift the knees, hold. My left leg stays stable. So this is quite a bit of quad on my left and hamstring. My right leg taps back. Nothing else moves. My right leg comes back to where it starts. So my knee's bent. Now my right leg stays still. Left leg taps back. So it's a lot of quad, a lot of hamstring on that standing, stabilizing leg. Walks back in, right? One more each side. Do we feel this? Oh, yeah. One more to the left. Last one. Walk it in. Drop it down and ditch your band. Nice job. We'll get the heart rate up a little bit too. Right? Goodbye, band. Okie dokie. Those are done. We're done with planks. So good. We will stretch all this out in about 10 minutes. So we're going to come onto our bellies now. It's the back side of our core. So back extensors. So hands will be, so elbows bent, hands somewhere in front of your shoulders, where your shoulders can roll forward. So if they're placed so close to you that you can't get your shoulders just completely relaxed down,
just kind of adjust, right? Forward or back. Forehead on the ground, right? Or just hovering a little, pubic bone heavy, legs fairly wide, low abs draw up and in. And then as you exhale, I just want you to push down into your hands, push down into your elbows. And do you feel your core muscles start to turn on? So it's deep abs, you'll feel some back muscles turn on. And then just hover the head and the chest up a couple inches. And then as you continue to hover up a little bit more, keep your elbows heavy, shoulder blades start to glide downward, eyes start to come forward. And again, I'm just lifting, yeah, nice, Elizabeth, wherever I can without my elbows lifting. Slowly take it down. Shoulders eventually spill forward. Again, push into the hands first. I'm pushing down a little bit. Head starts to come up, shoulders glide down as my head and chest lift. Upper spine, middle spine, lower back just stays nice and neutral. Yeah, back down. One more like this. Presetting, push down a little. Hover the head up. Pubic bone still heavy, low back, doesn't change shape. It's moving through that upper spine. Now, if you want to add on, stay lifted. Feel where the center of your breastbone is. You might have to come down a little bit closer to the ground. So really want you to feel this more in your upper spine and kind of in between those shoulder blades. Set the glutes, set your tummy, hover hands and elbows up. Shoulders roll out of ears. Take an inhale. Exhale, reach your arms out to a T, palms facing down. So it's upper back, back of the shoulders, inner shoulder blades. Inhale, arms come back to that bent position, kind of like chicken wings. Exhale, reach. Arms reach out to a T and they lift slightly. Inhale back. Again, chest doesn't have to be real high on this. Reset your abs, reset your glutes. Exhale, reach. Inhale in. Now, if you want to advance, start to reach a little bit more forward rather than out to a T. So you can go to a Y and bend in, or maybe to an I, right? Kind of like more of a Superman position. Now, as your arms start to reach further away from your midline has to work harder, right? Your waistline, your abs have to work a little bit harder to help stabilize. Yeah, maybe do a version of all three, right? T, Y, and I. Neck stays long. All right, let's take one more. Bend in, relax down. Hands under the forehead, bend the knees. Windshield wiper the feet from side to side. Nice. Just getting some rotation into the pelvis, into the hips. Lovely. Coming back to center, lengthen the legs down to the ground. And then if you're on a mat like we are at the studio, I'm just gonna push back slightly. So my feet, if they're flexed, my toes are on the ground. They're just away from the mat, right? And this can be done standing as well, right? Or on our side as well. So the hands will come behind the head. My left leg is just gonna stay completely relaxed. My right foot flexes. I lift my knee, but I keep my toes on the ground. Roll the shoulders out of the ears. Set your stomach. And then exhale, just glide the right leg out to the side without lifting the hip, without hiking the hip, and then pull back in through your inner thighs. So again, shoulders are set, tummy set, I reach out. This is essentially our side leg lift that we did on our side earlier with resistance. You're probably gonna feel this a little bit deeper in the hip, a little bit closer to the joint, and maybe a little bit more sense of opening through the front of the hip as we reach out. And just keep that contact of foot on ground. Yeah, you could do this, yeah, standing, A-okay. Shoulders nice and easy. Next time you pull in, relax that foot. Reset shoulders. Flex the left foot, lift the knee, hold. And then exhale, take that left leg out to the side. Pull back in through your adductors. So inner thighs to help pull in. A little bit of outer hip, outer thigh to help open without hiking. And just keep that sense of fluid motion as we open and as we pull in. Shoulders stay easy. Waistline stays in. Yeah. Head stays heavy. Nice. Keep those low floating ribs lifting a little bit so your lower back has support. Last one. Draw in, rest. Again, bend the knees, windshield wiper the feet from side to side. So we can go back to the same exact motion. We'll just alternate each side, or we come up and do a full plank on our hands. You probably know what's coming on this one. So this really, so at home, if you're doing this with your foot on a carpet, it might not work unless you have a slider or like a Frisbee or something under your foot to create some glide. You don't want a lot of resistance on this. So if I set up hands and knees, set shoulders, set core, I step back one leg at a time into plank, right? I assess, all right, how stable does this feel? My ribs are stable, my core is stable, my left leg stays still. Can my right leg reach out just a little bit to the side? Without changing anything else in my body, I pull back in, and then left leg just goes a little bit out to the side. Again, socks on a wood floor is going to be the most ideal on this, or a slider. Good, reaching and pulling. And I want you to keep that sense of width through your middle back and your lower back, right? If it starts to grip, you just come back down to where we started, right? These are just progressions. This is going to get inner thighs more involved, core more involved. Yeah, one more each side. You're going to end to your left eventually. And then lower down, take child's pose. Or forward fold if you're standing. Nice. How'd those feel? Yeah. Intense, right? Yeah. Sweet. All right. So we're going to start to come into some hip openers. So option one is figure four stretch. So you can come onto your back, ankle over thigh. Option two is pigeon. So hands and knees, right knee towards my right hand. I kick my right foot open and send my left leg back. Now your right shin does not have to be completely parallel with the front edge of your mat, especially if you start to feel torque in your knee or your hip. All of our hip joints are shaped really differently. And our femoral heads, kind of how they sit in our hip joints, are all really different. So just remember, especially in poses like this, it's not one pose fits all necessarily, right? Figure four, if you're taking it, similar stretch, you're just here on your back, right? And figure four seated would be an alternative as well. So make sure wherever you're at, you feel your outer hip stretching. So where we were doing all that band work. Yep. And then as you breathe in and breathe out, just notice, are you clenching in your glutes? Are you holding on to some of that glute energy that we worked hard on today? But really just try to relax it. Kind of picture the sitting bones widening a little bit. Maybe rock a little from side to side, see if that changes the stretch. And even if you're not completely parallel now, if you shift into one area and you feel a little bit more stretch there, take a breath or two. All right, when we're standing and we're moving upright, we're not always in these, we're not moving like robots. Nice. And then switch sides, maybe through a down dog or simply just cat, or just switching, right? However you'd like to get there. Eventually just getting to the other side. And you could, right, if you're in pigeon, you could take a block or a pillow under this hip. Figure four, again, nice alternative. Figure four on a wall, right? Anything goes on these. Yeah, big breaths into the belly. And again, just check in that you're not clenching or holding any of that glute energy still. They don't have to work anymore. And then maybe rock a little from side to side and find a different stretch. Hold it for a breath or so. Nice. And then make your way up to hands and knees. And then right hand will reach underneath the left armpit. Palm can turn up, and we're just going to start to dive or reach or thread this right arm under. My left arm can bend a little bit. My shoulders are down. Now you can reach halfway, thread the needle, or you can come all the way down. So I'm turned onto my right ear. My left arm can walk forward, and I can use this left arm to offload my bottom shoulder a bit and my head while I get this kind of upper spine and middle spine twist and traction, right? Alternatives, you could be on your side, right? Kind of doing this classic side lying rotation that we typically do, right? We're just kind of changing it up today a little bit. Couple more breaths right now, really using that inhale to help expand and stretch out some of those back muscles. And then come back to center, round your spine like a cat just once. Yeah, find your center again. Set the right arm, left arm reaches under, palm can turn up. Yeah, maybe halfway thread, right? Elbow bent a little, shoulders soft, or full thread, head to the floor. Right arm can walk forward to give you a little bit of leverage. Pull shoulders out of ears. Hips square, feet apart if you can. Yeah, even if it's just a quarter of an inch, might change the stretch into the back of the hips as well. Yeah, and just breathe in, big inhales, big exhales. Good. And then rise up through hands and knees, find a cat stretch. Good. You can make your way through down dog, eventually into a forward fold, however you'd like to get there. All right. And once you come into that forward fold, just noticing how does this feel towards the end of the hour. Right. Softening into the knees a little, relaxing the shoulders, maybe give the head a little roll from side to side. And bend the knees a little bit more. Root down through the feet. See if you can feel first mound of the foot, last mound, center of the heel. Root into those points. Exhale, roll up. Heavy arms, heavy head. And eventually allow your head to come up last. And we'll end you there today. Nicely done.